May 25th, 2022 meeting of the Ogden Town Board to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I ask you to remain standing for a moment as now a reflection and prayer for our military servicemen and women serving around the world, as well as for our first responders. I'd also like to add a few moments for those that were slain in the two horrific incidences in Buffalo and Texas. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'd like to start off today's meeting with a proclamation. I'm just going to read this, and then I'll invite some guests to come up and receive this award and say a few words. So it says, "Proclamation of the Town of Ogden. Whereas we take great pride in recognizing and celebrating important milestones in the history of organizations in the Town of Ogden. One such organization is the Spencerport Volunteer Firemen's Association Ladies Auxiliary, which is celebrating the 75th annual anniversary of its founding. It has one of the most active auxiliary memberships in New York State, with over 40 members. The mission of the organization is to support and strengthen the fire district, its families, the surrounding community with their time, efforts, and income, with strong focus on providing philanthropic funding for charitable organizations that are in service to the community. The Ladies Auxiliary hosts family activities in conjunction with the Spencerport Fire Department, actively works on community outreach and holds fundraising events, and community members enjoy. With the Spencerport School District, they collect and donate school supplies, provide a $500 scholarship to graduating seniors, and participate in yearly fire prevention programs. And the Town of Ogden is fortunate to have such courageous individuals selflessly serving our community and supporting our dedicated Spencerport Fire Department. Now, therefore, we, the Town Board of the Town of Ogden, offers congratulations and best wishes to the Spencerport Volunteer Firemen's Association Ladies Auxiliary as it celebrates the 75th anniversary of its founding. Did you come and be recognized? No. The board wants to join, and anybody else wants to join? I'd like to. On behalf of the town, we're very grateful.
Anybody else want to say anything? I'll speak for just a minute as past president and board member. The town of Ogden is very near and dear to our heart, not only the fire district itself. And we, over the years, have been so supported by our town board, our village board, and our community at whole that we truly appreciate you recognizing us with this honor. So thank you very much.
Sure.
I have a quick photo.
No, you guys are. We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably such a small token, but certainly Well worth recognizing for sure. Thank you, guys. No need to explain. No need to explain.
Move down, same move there.
Okay, we'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from resolution 162.
I'll move that.
Moved by Councilman Freeman, seconded by Councilman Perry. Is there any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next, we have privilege of the floor. Is there anyone that is here that wishes to address the board at this time? Come forward. Go ahead and as you approach, state your name, your address, and then let us know what's on your mind.
Sure. So, my name is Scott Mead, 28 Sarah Circle in Spencerport. I actually have extra copies of what I'm about to say, so I leave that here. And I'm Mark Luigi at 29 Sarah Circle. So we have some diagrams as well, some maps and things. We'll give Mark a second to get the first one on board. So we're going to talk today about the event that happened on Friday afternoon on Sarah Circle. If you're not familiar, hopefully you will be shortly. So what we have here is a picture of a corner of Sarah Circle. 7 years ago, my wife and I moved here with a 2.5. It was just a we pulled into the driveway and we're immediately met by neighbors. I literally hadn't gotten out of the truck yet, and there's 4 people waiting. It's home, right? It feels great. It's great to be home, and I love it. We back up against Myers Farm. We're back up against other property. You can see I'm here with the pool. We're against the farm. We've got great neighbors, and you know none of these lots are 9 acres. Why is there 9 acres here? Is because if I look outside on any day, my kids are somewhere on those 9 acres. I actually don't know where most of them. Now I'm up to 4 kids. As a matter of fact, in this corner, I believe we have 14 kids between the ages of 1 and 13 years old, just in those 5 houses on those 9 acres. Okay. Friday was a normal day. It's a beautiful day outside. My watch rang at 3:47 p.m. Time to get the kids off the bus. Bus shows up around 4 o'clock. 8 kids come screaming off the elementary school bus. So in Bellevue, first thing out of their mouth is a chorus of "Can we play?" Of course you can. So by 4:10, we're back outside, and I don't really know where my kids are. They're running around with the neighbors. There's 2 other parents out there. We're talking just about how the week has been, and all of a sudden we hear gunfire. Now, in and of itself, this is not completely unusual. We do have a hunting cabin. If you want to move to the next picture, we have a known hunting cabin on a property that is directly behind both 20 and 24 Sarah Circle, and it's noted here by the red X. It typically is when the leaves are down. It's visible from just about any of our properties, and we'll hear a couple of shots. It's hunting. It's nothing unusual. We're kind of used to it. It's not a problem. Well, this is a Friday in May. The school bus let out, and we don't hear 1 shot. We don't hear 2. We hear dozens. And then we go from a few shots ringing out in quick succession, from semi-automatic something or other, to multiple guns being fired at the same time. Before you know it, you can't even make out how many there are. A few minutes later, we got a little bit nervous, because now we don't know where it's coming from. So if we go to the next picture, the other 2 parents and I from other houses on Sarah Circle, we felt so unsure that we moved directly in front of this house because we did not feel safe being anywhere else. All of a sudden, a shot rang out that from, and I've measured, 347 feet from the property line, which is approximately 645 feet from that hunting cabin. The only thought in my head was it was a cannon. It was one of the loudest booms I've ever heard outside of a parade or a fair or something. It scared the daylights out. We were pinned down. We were absolutely pinned down. The rate of fire increased significantly, getting louder and louder to the point where I could not talk to the parents sitting this far away. Now, the sounds that we hear at this point, there is no reasonable way that we would be safe inside any of those houses. So we stayed where we were. We had multiple walls in between. I actually didn't know what to do. Now, by this point, it's getting on in the evening. We've already got 13 kids. We're up from the 8 that were there. We've got 13. A few of mine extra had come out. My 1-year-old had come outside, not realizing what was going on. And a number of kids have gone by on their electric scooters and bicycles and walks and everything else. Sarasota was a really popular walk. At this point, we're pinned down in a war zone. The only way I can describe what we heard is to go listen to any news channel and it's reporting of Ukraine. That's exactly what it sounded. It was terrifying. I'm still terrified. In fact, I have not slept. That's why I'm very talking. At 4:27 p.m., after hearing hundreds of rounds of stone, I was so in such in fear of our safety that I called 911. And you know, I think there's reasonable use, but this was getting unsafe. The officer eventually arrived, driving slowly around, and asked if I knew where the sound was originating. But you want to move to the next. And we had a suspicion. We know there's a hunting cabin. Now we're not 100% accurate. So this is a picture from my property across the neighboring property, directly aimed at the hunting cabin, approximately 450 feet away from it. In the fall, you can see the cabin clearly. Right now, you cannot. That, for all intents and purposes, is dense jungle. I told the officer I didn't feel comfortable with them going back there because they were literally going through a jungle into a live fire. It was still a war zone at this point. A little while, the officer drove away. She told me she had a partner. They were trying to get egress or ingress from the other side of the property. A little while later, and honestly, I don't remember when, I was just so flustered. Fire began to calm down, subsided completely. My family and I moved back in the house, as did the other families, and we started to go about the rest of our week. We had dance, we had softball, we had all these other things. While looking down the street, I saw another police cruiser pull into a neighbor's house. Now, the addresses are part of the police report, they're part of the public record, they're not mine, so I'm going to let those individuals state their addresses for themselves. What I did is I used an app called OnX. It was actually recommended to me by the responding officer that shows property lines and other interesting things. And we drew this. This is actually using the OnX tool's range finding tool. So it draws a really nice range. Now, for conversion purposes, I'm sorry, you can't. So 166.66 yards is 500 feet. So New York State DEC says that you may discharge a firearm as long as you are outside 500 feet from a structure. Now, if you notice, the very bottom, and I know it's hard to see from this satellite photo, and actually this photo is a little outdated. You'll see that there is some item here. It's actually a swing set in this picture, and now it's a pool house. Okay, that is your 500 feet. So it just kisses. Okay. Later, while sitting at dinner, there was a knock on the door. It was the officer that initially responded, and she, with a pretty sad look on her face, said, "I'm sorry to inform you. The neighbor's house has been hit by a round, and we're looking at all the houses for potential damage." I came out and saw something that I've only seen on the news. The neighborhood is covered with police vehicles, and officers are walking around every single house looking for bullet holes in Ogden, 2.5 miles. So if we go to the next, we later found out there were actually 2 houses struck, not one. The closest house that was struck, sorry for the aspect of this, hit number 1 is 900 feet away from the shot. That round penetrated the exterior sheeting of the house, penetrated the interior wallboard, and went through a shower that was previously occupied by a teenage individual just a few minutes before. We're very, very lucky that that person was not killed. I don't know weapons very well, but I don't know of many hunting shotguns for hunting use that would pull that off very easily. The furthest house that was hit number 2, is 1,009 feet away. It's got a very large hole in the interior, it was on the corner. Again, I don't know the owners of those houses, what their feelings and thoughts are. They posted some of them on Facebook, they're matter of public record, nobody in the police. So we know the New York State DEC says the inner circle, 166.67 yards around the area, that's 500. This weapon was able to travel 900 feet, penetrate a building, and present danger to life and limb. So we went to 1,000 feet, which was the furthest hit, and we drew a circle. That circle has 8 houses, 10 properties, and no less than 18 minors, with 2 on the way. That's 1,000 feet. Again, 900 feet away from the shooter. My living room is 639 feet from the shooter. My kid's swing set is 671 feet, and I have 2 swing sets, 491 and 562 feet from this shooter. This is what we call a fort. Built last year, it survived the winter. It was built with a couple of boys and grandpa. And it's on the property line between mine and my neighbor's house. And they actually, believe it or not, picked up some furniture. There's a couple chairs in there. This is 322 feet from the shooter. 322 feet. Where are we supposed to play? What are we supposed to do with our ring? What am I supposed to do with it? What happens if I'm mowing the lawn with you? Right? Those are the questions running through my head. I think the police are doing a great job. They're investigating this hard. They have talked to every single person that's called. They have been open. They have been honest, and we appreciate their response. Okay? I think that's really important to me. I really do appreciate it. I'm also a very strong believer in my Second Amendment rights and everybody's right to exercise the safe and responsible version of their Second Amendment. This event was reckless. It endangered dozens of lives. It was anything but safe and responsible. Okay. Mark, if you can find that, the picture, going back to the home again.
And I add that I also call Linda Captain.
Ma'am, if you want to speak, you can put your phone. Okay, then just state your name and address.
Yep. So I just want to point out, going back to the officers that responded. Okay. So there's a couple of things wrong. Why am I here? I think there's some actionable things the town can do. So first of all, this was what we the people were asking our police officers to go into a war zone. That right there is, it could be anywhere in the world, the most dangerous war zone. I can't believe they did it. I'm amazed they did it. They found them and they shut them down. They shouldn't have had to do that. They should have had some other means. They were moving blindly into a lot of people. What else was wrong? The shooters were either turned around or conducted no survey of the range, and the police have referred to it as a range that they had set up to verify that there was no risk to life, limb, or property. Careless. Absolutely careless, reckless, and unforgiving. There was no berm or backstop capable of capturing the rounds in use. We have weapons that are way overpowered, and we have no way to stop them. One of the officers said to me on the phone, it's usually common sense that you're responsible for your projectile wherever it happens. I just want to point out that is not codified anywhere. The height at which the bullet struck the houses suggests the shooters were shooting upward in uncontrolled fashion. This is really interesting. Both houses were hit over 8 feet in the air. The shooting cabin, if you look at the lay of the land, the roof of the cabin is below the basement floor of both houses. So, most likely, an inexperienced individual with a recoil moving up, unable to recover or unwilling to recover, firing in rapid succession. Inexperienced, not responsible, unsafe. And as I said before, the weaponry in use was significantly more powerful than something that a 500-foot buffer is capable of saving this one. There's no way. We've seen the picture. So what can we do? I have a few suggestions, and I'm looking for input from the town, looking for input from everybody. If it were me, I would say, except properly licensed hunting activity, shooting ranges within 1,000 feet of a residential property line must obtain a temporary range permit. This does not apply to any location that is greater than 1,000 feet from a residential, possibly a commercial property. So if you are in the absolute middle of nowhere, and you have enough property to support this kind of activity, you can do what you do today. If you're too close to a residential property line, you need to get a temporary permit from this town. A temporary range permit is handled by Ogden Town. A temporary range permit requires that you designate a safety individual who will be on site at that range while live fire is being conducted with a phone or other method of contact so that our officers do not have to brave that. The temporary range permit requires a drawn map, just like if I build a pool or a shed, right? A drawn map with clearances, measurements, everything involved. And a temporary range also requires approval from all property owners, lessees, and occupants whose property line is within 1,000 feet of the edge of the proposed range. If right now, today, if I spray for dandelions, I have to tell my neighbors. Right now, today, if I spray bullets, I do that. A temporary range permit is not required for properly licensed hunting that follows existing DEC rules during hunting season for any range that is more than 1,000 feet from a residential property line. I would also suggest that a temporary range be given a 3-day time span. It's enough for a long weekend. I don't think there's any more need than that. Help me figure out how to build simple rules that enforce range safety without imposing undue process. Help me figure out how to build a framework that allows us to exercise our rights safely. Please help me do this before we have to name it after one of them. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I'm interested in you.
Before anybody else speaks, you can feel free to chime in, but I just wanted to thank you for this presentation. Everybody up here has kids, either young or grown, and so when we met on Monday, I took this seriously. I also brought it to the board, and I've had several conversations with the police about it. I do know that the investigation is ongoing. It's not done. I know that Sergeant Marcucci spoke with maybe 7 additional residents went to their homes to speak with them. And I know that this is something that for sure should not be something that happens. I don't think anybody disputes that. From my standpoint, I know that I'm interested to hear the outcome of the findings. When we were looking at it, you and I together, I also wondered how any ammunition could get through the forest in that way. And again, that's up to the officers to investigate and see what preventative measures should have been taken place and could have. So that's really my comments at this point. Knowing that this is not an end conclusion or anything like that.
No, it sounds like a nightmare. What happened to you? I apologize for that. And I appreciate what you did putting this together, bring it to our attention. Stuff is something we're going to need to talk about and see what can happen and do. But yeah, it's something we're going to have to talk to it with the authorities as things come out and they make us aware of what their findings are.
And I think it's a hard problem to solve because we have a lot of land in Ogden that is perfect for hunting and the safe exercise of our rights. So I think it's going to be a very big challenge to codify something that protects people and so allows freedom. I think that there's a middle ground that we can find, and it's not going to be easy, but it's something that we need to work through as a town.
Yeah. So I live at 20, I'm actually across the street. Depending on where you're pointing the fire, my house is range, but my kids play with this kid more across the street. What Scott was saying about the law and codifying something. We went back there, we took a walk, we saw no visible rain. We saw no silhouettes, we saw nothing set up for targets, we saw no cleared laneways, where you would walk back and forth. We didn't see, bark shot off trees. Again, I am not against hindering anybody's rights, I am definitely pro-gun. And we want these people to be able to enjoy their freedom. Whoever owns the land, I believe is absolutely negligent. Because according to what Scott and I showed you on these maps, there's a 500-acre farm in the complete opposite direction. So whoever allowed, from what we understand the reports, that there were guests on the property, those guests might not have known their houses were there, but the owner should have made it clear. There is no, I don't know where the range is. We walked 10 acres. We found no range.
Well, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do think the officer misspoke. There isn't a range there from the photos that they took, because they did do a very detailed search. From what I saw, it was a target, not a silhouette, a target like on a stand, and that was it. Okay. There's not there. To be clear, there isn't a range there. I think that the use of that word probably was mischaracterized by you said the officer said that, and but I just wanted to be clear. There's no commercial.
Okay, that makes it even worse. That makes it even worse. Okay, they just walked out there, put up a target, and started firing bullets. Okay, we're all sick of politics. I'm hoping things are going to be much easier on a local level. I at least would like to see a ban for 1 year on this property for firing until they can get their act together. And then I want I would see local law enforcement advise these people on how to shoot and where to shoot. Okay, just to be turning their back 180 degrees would have been much, much safer. As far as the area of fire you mentioned, you know, how could a bullet pass through? Well, we don't know who they're standing at yet. They could have been much, much closer. So, you know, unfortunately, the frustrating thing about this is because the homeowners aren't pressing charges, there is no aggravated harassment. Aggravated harassment 1 or 2. But there's 2 choices, guys. Either you miss or you hit. And if you hit and nothing's been done about it in a year, I don't want to be this blunt, but the way that they change these parole laws, that all that blood is on the Democrats' hands. I don't want to see it on your hands, and I'll hold you responsible. These are our children, these are our lives, these are our things. We live here, so we don't have to deal with the bullets on Conkey Avenue or Avenue D or St. Paul. And like I said, I am not looking for anybody's rights to be restricted. I just want enforcement and education. There needs to be a permit. And just like if I gotta get a shed and I need a permit for a shed, then you need a permit to fire your gun. And if they're gonna do it as target practice, then there needs to be a range. It's not just a weekend thing where they're just taking up once a month, they're going out with pistols and shooting bombs. And like Scott said, if you ever get a chance to visit the topography, I mean, it is extreme. Like Scott said, either the recoil threw them off, or someone just grabbed the gun and picked it up. It was a soft trigger, and they double tapped it by mistake, and then 2 shots just went wild. This could have been a whole different story if that kid got shot, get out of the shower. I'm sorry that those people aren't pressing charges, because this needs to be more than just, well, we're sorry, there's nothing we can do. The cops walk away, we walk away, and we walk away. So that's really all. That's all I have to say. So I appreciate you and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Everybody, appreciate it. I'm gonna leave I'll leave my copy here.
Thank you.
If you need more, please feel free to reach out. I would love to have more conversation about this, how we figure it out. How we go. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
Yes, thank you.
And if you could just state your name and your address.
My name is Dr. Katie Wilson. My address is 19 Longbow Circle. And so my house backs up to the pond. I'm in direct line to where all this happened. I was outside starting to clean my pool for the season. And let me just preface it by saying, in past years, we've had people shooting in the fields behind us. And usually you can tell it's a rifle shot and they're shooting a few critters, there's a few shots, you're aggravated, but nothing like this. I've never called, I've never had lodged a complaint, but this time it went on and on. I'm talking easily 100, 200, probably well over 100, probably closer to 200 shots. And it started out infrequently, like just a pop, pop, and then all of a sudden it was that pop, 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 where you know it was high-powered guns, toys out there that had no business being out there. I'm out there like, oh, I'm like, what is going on? And then it stopped momentarily, and I was like a child. I screamed as loud as I could, stop the shooting. I didn't know what to do. But I went inside and went into my forward room because I just didn't know what to do. But it definitely went on for several hundred shots back there. And it's terribly dangerous. So I hope that we will be able to address it soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the board at this time?
Hi, my name is Debbie Lopa, and I live at 15 Longbow Circle. I've been out of town for a couple of weeks on vacation, so I'm not aware. I read a little bit online of what was happening. Was it an isolated incident? I asked, because approximately 4 weeks ago, we heard the same thing with a gunshot, and we called the out.
And you should, and that is the recourse. Where I live on Maida Drive, there is a lot of open space by Manitou and Big Ridge, and we hear it all the time as well.
Yeah, but it was, we hear like you said, guns right now, so we heard it occasionally. But this was a lot more shots than what we're counting, so we can call the out. They did drive down the street and leave them all our information. This is going back to 4 weeks. We didn't get any feedback, so I'm assuming they just drove around and looked. We gave them our name, our phone number, so they did drive by. I was just curious, that's been going on for 4 weeks.
No, my understanding is that there were a number of individuals. I actually don't remember how many, but 4 or 5.
Yeah, so that would mean that the call that I made.
No, at the hunting cabin.
We believe it was 8.
8 people. Okay. I saw the list because not only do the officers take the statements, but they run background checks on every single person that was there. There is a documented file that's there so that if this ever happens again, it comes up instantly on their report. They do a detailed background check on all of the firearms. The firearms that were used, according to what I understand, is a 12-gauge shotgun. And that's which is a very standard, very typical hunting shotgun that the qualifications for owning a shotgun is to be 18 years old.
How
That's
far, what's the travel range? Do you know that?
No.
I'm just asking, because he mentioned the 900 feet.
but I do know that it was, and it's,
Shotgun, that was rapid fire. That's not a rapid fire.
well, according to what the police found, the shells on the ground and the bullet that was inside the home, it was a slug from a gun. That's what the reports show as of right now. It wasn't a rifle or a handgun. But again, it's an investigation that's ongoing, but that's been the finding that it's located.
When did the investigation begin? Only because I'm asking, we filed about 4 weeks ago. We clearly didn't file a report. Sure.
I think you probably find an incident report on file. And
We never heard that.
Well, this was Friday at 4:50.
No, I'm talking about 4 weeks ago when we talked.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'll say in general is that the board doesn't get updated on domestic violence or a lot of these things unless they are a bigger issue. The police department does a really good job keeping records of all of that, so you're welcome to come in and see what the update is. I haven't heard that. I have heard this.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Do you know when we can expect to do some sort of results or what's going on?
I've actually asked that question and they said it's an ongoing investigation. They
she's talking about
4 weeks, right?
No, I'm just talking in general.
Oh, I'm
saying, just for the last couple of weeks. It's ongoing. I mean, there's a lot of things that are ongoing, but what happened in fact, that's ongoing too.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not the jurisdiction that we have as the elected officials, but you know, I know that there's also been oral requests for the last 5 years of incidences in the county, so they're compiling that information as we speak as well. So what I would say is I know that information will go to individuals involved in this who that all goes to, I'm not positive.
Because that was, since I returned, I keep my shades down and I won't hold you back. Which sounds sad.
Yeah.
And I'm a long time resident, I've been on for.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it goes a long way. Anyone else here that would like to? Well, thank you very much for coming in and bringing this concern to us. We're gonna conclude with the rest of the agenda. Feel free to stay or get back if we don't feel like it's rude. Okay. Thank you, guys. Please note in the correspondences, there are a number of items there, and from there we'll move on to reports from town officers. I just wanted to remind the public and the board that there is a Memorial Day parade on May 30th in town, and after the parade, there will be a ceremony at Memorial Park. There's also the torch run June 3rd to support Special Olympics. That's actually taking off from our parking lot and concluding at Voucher Lodge. Everybody is invited to that. I sent out messages on both of those. We also have the Fireman's Carnival, and I'll let Aaron talk more about that. I had the honor of attending the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation reception at Spencerport Fire Hall. I know that Highway Superintendent Dan Wolf was there. I know that there's a number of our employees that were there. Dave, I think you were there, and so was Doug Case and Joe Beretta, Jim Fulton, a number of other people. And just listening to some of the stories of the families who had family members that had passed away in the line of duty, it was completely heartbreaking. And but on a positive note, the fire district did an incredible job holding a really great get together in honor of these fallen firefighters. It was beautiful, it really was, and a really great time. There was a tremendous number of people that were there, and people that are part of the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation themselves from all over the country came to our little town and really had the red carpet pulled out for them. So it was really, really well done. Next, the comprehensive plan, our ongoing look into this. Most recently, we've reached back out to MRB to discover what's involved in their grant writing process. I know we've talked about doing it in-house, we talked about doing it with MRB, and we just had a Zoom call with them to discuss what is involved in the grant writing process. It's actually not as bad as we once thought, and I'm waiting to get some detailed information to present to the board. But this is up to $100,000 grant that would include all services that would go to whoever's awarded the bid. My confusion was they need the MWBE, so minority-owned, women-owned businesses, to be part of the process for bidding. And what I didn't understand was that MRB would help us draft the grant, and then they would be bidding as a consultant along with other companies and organizations. So they're basically bidding, they're drafting this and then bidding against other people. And that would be the MWBE contingency that's in this. So we're still moving forward, we're getting information, and I will report back on that. Myself and Dan attended the Little Red's, not just Little Red, Adams Basin Neighborhood Watch group. Really good feedback from them, lots of concerns about what the future of Little Red is, which we'll talk about in work session. And a tremendous amount of praise for what's being done here, especially in the highway departments, and how quickly they respond, how great the roads work or look, and a tried to say something negative because I think Dan was too much positivity for Dan, you know. But seriously, the people there had so much gratitude for the work that's being done in the highway department. I know Dan felt that as well. We held a very large meeting about the Walgreens Plaza. We included state DOT, our engineer, highway superintendent, our planning board chair, building department liaison to the planning board and zoning board, to really discuss how in the world they're going to develop all of this and allow everybody to turn left out of that small little area. We've already had one proposal come in front of the planning board, which is the Quickley's. It's a gas station, convenience bar, car wash, and Dunkin' Donuts, all right in the corner with full intentions to turn left out of 259. No, not an engineer, not a traffic study guy, but that feels intense, especially with the rest of the development that's proposed. The original site plan was drafted in 2015. And this meeting with state DOT right there in this back room with us was to kind of say, what can we do? And what should we do? And at the conclusion of this meeting, it lasted about an hour, we all agreed that we take a quick timeout and allow for a long-range traffic study to be conducted. And that, and Josh, your report, please feel free to chime in, but the purpose is to look not at piece by piece, but what does the traffic look like at the conclusion of the full development? Because again, my opinion only, 31 looks completely different. It probably has double lanes. 259, whether they add a fourth traffic light or not, that's up to the state. They're both state roads, so that's why they were there. And we also asked that they include the parcel across the street, Mr. Hage's property, and contacted Mr. Hage and Mr. Romeo. And I know that Ellicott Development reached out to see if they could partner up and do a traffic study of all of it, just to better inform. And Mr. Hage and Mr. Romeo really appreciated that we're still thinking about them and seeing what this looks like when everything is done. Maybe that happened.
Yeah. And, well, I was just to add, I think that's good because we looked last meeting, we looked at the property on the east side. And that little piece, we all know that those, as something goes in, more stuff's gonna happen there, and kind of encapsulated it all, and doing a traffic study just seemed like it made a lot of sense. If this is gonna be happening, it makes more sense to have it all, everyone knows what's going on, so it can all be a cohesive thing. So it was a really productive meeting. I agree, it was a really good time to get something going. But this is an important piece for us, for admin, kind of like we talked about, like the entrance going into Spencerport. We really want this to be a nice, important piece for us. So I think it was a really good time. Also, we talked about, you know, that entire piece, what could happen down the road, you know, another, what's going to happen like down on 31 a little bit more. So a lot of this all can't just look at what we have in front of us right now. We're trying to plan what's going to happen long term down the road further, and pieces that aren't talked about yet. So it was a really good productive meeting. So
I think when the state spoke to us, something the developer tried to do, and something I believe Quickly might even tried to do, was put something past us that they weren't following what they did in 2015. In 2015, the traffic study stated they had to do another traffic study before any of that Quickly variant came out. And whether it's them who dropped the ball or the developer dropped the ball, but the state told us right straight out they were supposed to do a traffic study before that even came off the floor. So it kind of helped out let us know something was not right when we did it, and that could have been why somebody would say anything about it out here. That was quite surprised in the conversation they had that came up, and it was never done, and even the developer kind of, I think, knew that had to be done too. I think somebody got caught, not just pushing something through, they get caught by meeting back there and people questioning it. So I think they knew it had to be done, but I think they didn't, they thought they could slide it through without happening.
A lot of times, think when the planning board looked at that, in 2015, 14, their question then was the same question they're asking now. It really depends on the uses of the property, that impact the traffic study. Yes, it's good to do another traffic study now, but you gotta, I think the experts in the traffic area will tell you, you gotta use a worst case scenario. In other words, it's fully developed with, high density uses that are gonna generate a lot of traffic, and then use those numbers to try to, figure out, how you control it and how you regulate it.
Yeah, and I think I just saw, and I know you felt as a board, that this was starting to happen. And not to put blame one way or another, but nobody was pumping the brakes on it. And so really appreciate Dan and John and a couple other people that kind of, I don't know this stuff as well as they do, but they gave me kind of the emboldened me to step in there and say, stop everything, everybody get together. And it was a very productive conversation. I love that we have so many people in this town that care enough to really look at what's going on. So just so you know, that is going on behind the scenes for sure. Working on it. I did attend the annual finance school that was held in Albany. My report is in there, but quick thing to bring out there. It was very apparent and obvious to me that there's a lot of responsibility on the policies that the board has adopted. If there is to be an audit, the first thing that will happen is they will pull all of our policies and then they will compare them to what we've been doing. And who is held responsible? Not necessarily the supervisor, not necessarily the finance director, it's the town board. So it's really important that we are fully aware of the policies we have, update the policies we need to update, and recognize that financial decisions are made by this board, not by any one individual. So that's that. We are in the community center. We are having new hours. It's a shift of 30 minutes from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's just going to be opening at 8, closing at 4. There's a sunset on that. Obviously, Labor Day, we will resume 8:30 to 4:30. And that is that doesn't include the highway department, it doesn't include the library, doesn't include the courts, but the offices, the main offices where business is conducted in this building for that. And then the last thing I have is that we had a great conversation with a woman named Rhonda Penders, who is in charge of a committee that's, she'll tell you it's not real, but it's the Adams Basin Garden Committee. And I was with, Tony was there as well. They've been maintaining 2 signs in the Adams Basin that have kind of gotten away from them. And as she has said, they're aging and it's a little bit more difficult. And so she sat down and asked what we could do to help. And Tony's agreed to help from a labor standpoint. They will still continue to pay for the materials and everything. And Tony is offered to help them with putting down the stone. And I got an email today, extremely appreciative that we have the willingness to help. That's it for me. Councilman Baker.
No.
No parade.
You're welcome. Well, you respond. You invite.
Thank you.
The whole board's invited. Oh, now I know. Now.
Councilman Hinman.
Number one on my side.
Councilman Perry.
I have no report. Thank you.
And Councilman Thomas.
Very briefly, I met with the library board this past meeting that they just had, listened in, nothing real going on there, just had to listen in, understand the process of their board meetings.
Very good. Mr. Wolf.
Just the town work, we're wrapping up the town work that's to be done right now. We paid very little overtime on the town work, Joe, and stone and paving. But from here on out for next probably 3 or 4 weeks, we have a lot of county work going and there's been a lot of overtime for the guys to, it's just too much for us to go over Highland Drive. 7 o'clock in the morning to leave drive next to that. So there's just a lot of overtime we have to do in the highway. That's all.
Very good. Mrs. Bruin.
Our new employee started this week and things seem to be going very well. So we're excited.
Very good. Mr. Shaw.
Received, since the last town board meeting, 2 sets of comments from the building department. Brian was, really good about going through the proposed amendments to the, outdoor wood boiler, proposed code, which we're gonna have a public hearing on coming up. And so I incorporated those and circulated them. So I want to thank Brian for his, involvement throughout. And that's it.
Very good. There is no unfinished business, so we will move to new business. And quick, go ahead.
Sure, resolution 163, approving the hiring of 3 full-time motor equipment operators in the highway department.
So, I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Thompson. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Resolution 154, adopting a new salary group for the assistant fire marshal as part of the 2022 hourly rate scale.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Next item, please.
Resolution 165, appointing David Farley to the part-time permanent position of assistant fire marshal effective May 6, 2022.
So moved. Second that.
Moved by Councilman Baker, seconded by Councilman Thoms. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, just one quick one. What is part-time permanent by itself?
Permanent is a denotation by civil service,
Okay.
but part-time is a limited number of hours.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations on your brand new role, Dave. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Resolution 166, appointing a voting member, alternate voting member, and a facilitator as part of the UNYMWCP.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilman Perry, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Resolution 167, appointing Susan Dugan as secretary to the Ogden Zoning Board of Appeals, the Ogden Planning Board, and the Ogden Conservation Board for the town of Ogden.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Thoms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Resolution 168, authorizing a contract with BOCES 2 for information systems service support.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Thoms, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion on this? So none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item.
Resolution 169, authorizing the renewal of LL Hoffco's Incorporated excavation license for property located on Canal Road in the town of Ogden.
So moved. I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Perry, seconded by Councilman Thoms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, please.
Resolution 170 is also authorizing the renewal of LL Hoffco's excavation license for property located on Canal Road in the town of Ogden.
I'll move that as well. Second.
Moved by Councilman Perry, seconded by Councilman Thoms. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Resolution 171, authorizing an agreement between the town of Ogden and Spencerport Central School District regarding the town's use of the Spencerport School District's fueling facility.
So moved. I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Thoms. Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Resolution 172, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement with Monroe County and the Monroe County Sheriff's Office for the purchase of live scan equipment.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilman Thoms, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries.
Resolution 173, local law 2 of 22, a local law amending 300-56 of the code of the town of Ogden to 7 days for the public hearing.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll move it. Second.
Moved by Councilman Perry, seconded by Councilman Baker. Any discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
The next date will be the second meeting of June, by the way, at 7 p.m.
Very good. Thank you. Next item.
Resolution 174, authorizing the town of Island to enter into an agreement with Tyler Technologies to implement the Encode ERP financial reporting system during 2022 and the Encode ERP payroll system by the start of 2024.
So moved. I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Tom, seconded by Councilman Hinman. Any discussion on this item? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Well done, Tim. And for the matter of a motion to adjourn to work session.
I'll second that.
Moved by Councilman Hinman, seconded by Councilman Tom. All those in favor signify by saying aye.